Já falamos de orchestre la mort, but nous still les cotes nous pas comment à présent.
Having an event? Get a wide variety of armbands at Kyrie FM. Paper, waterproof armbands with drink ticket stubs, plain or patent armbands, and more. Starting from 50 cents, we also sell by boxes. Have your event in style. Choose from our wide assortment of armbands. Visit our office on 42 Independence Street, Roseau at Kyrie FM for all your armbands. 15 minutes moving down past 2 o'clock. If you're just joining, welcome aboard. If you've been with us, keep it locked. Thank you for staying. And hot topics, new time. All right. Look out for the notifications on Facebook, on YouTube. We want to introduce our guest in studio right now. I'm going to transition to camera so you can see him. All right. Kimo Astafan. Is it the Indian of...
The Indian.
You're the Indian. You're the Indian.
Too many chiefs.
Yes, too many chiefs. One
Okay.
Indian. So, Kimo, good afternoon and welcome to the airwaves of Kyrie FM. Welcome to our studios. Pleasure to have you here.
Good morning, good morning. Thanks for having me. I'm in the company of two lovely, young, beautiful women.
Yeah, but that is, you guys have some medical problem.
I'm trying, you know.
I
try.
Looking for the problem.
But hot topics, eh?
Yeah, I tell you they want me already. You still want... Okay, it's hot topics. So we're looking for the topics. All right, so our topic this afternoon, well, we termed it gun violence. Is it a trend? But we want to touch on a few, other aspects. I like to start in the tit, in the head and come down to the foot.
You like to start in the center and eat yourself out, either to the head or to the bottom.
Yeah, no, I just want both sides. You understand?
Whichever
I just want both
suits you.
sides.
But I'm a front. I take it out. I take it from the beginning. That's the best. That's the best place to start.
Head on, right?
Head on. Yes, from the beginning. Mm-hmm.
You think so? Sometimes you have to look for like a deba and then you start.
You like Deva,
I
not you?
like deba. But so, start from the
Okay, so
beginning.
guys, we don't like to call it too much. We don't like to call. We know we love our country. We
Yes.
love the Commonwealth. We don't like to call anything negative in our country. But we have recognized that we have had a few incidences relating to guns. And today we are going to be discussing those incidents. Well, not particularly the incidents because they are under police investigations, and you all know we cannot go in too much or too deep into anything that's been investigated by the police. There's a hotline to call. If you know something that the police should know, call them, give them the tip. But as for us, we cannot do that. So we're going to be discussing guns, the illegal when you have a gun that's illegal, how to have a legal gun safety, gun violence, and how we can curb it, looking after yourself, your own safety, your family safety, and all of those things. And we're going to hear from a gun expert. I mean, that's Dominica's premier gun expert, yeah? So
I would say security, and that would involve the guns and taking care of...
Okay, well, we're not discussing security. He's a security person. You're trying to advertise for him.
No, definitely
he has to
not.
pay for his advertising.
Because when you talk about your gun, you're talking about securing your, securing your family in case somebody come and you should bow. Are you wrong or right?
We are not talking about his businesses.
Not at all.
Well, anyway, I go, you're Deba, boy.
Okay, yes, you're good at Deba. You see, that's the first time we have had Deba in studios, and that's because of you. So, guys, this afternoon we want to welcome Kimo Astafans, our local gun expert. Welcome, Kimo.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm. So, we have seen a rise in the misuse of guns. A lot of some gun violence. I don't want to misuse any words. A lot some gun violence. Some deaths relating to guns, and give us a little bit of rundown on the kind of guns that are in Dominica, including the illegal ones, those that cause unnecessary chaos in our communities. And yeah, give us a little bit of rundown.
Well, that's a little tough because if I could give and list the type of weapons I have seen in Dominica, that means I am also involved in the illegal trafficking and encouraging persons to carry illegal guns. So I'm just going to correct that. What I've heard and we've seen footage is that Dominica is let me not put it too nicely, is filthy.
Okay.
We have a lot of guns on the streets, and persons are becoming more and more comfortable in carrying weapons when they go out. And when we say weapons, we're talking about guns, huh?
Yes.
Yes.
Firearms. And persons are carrying firearms illegally, like they are legal carry holders. And that for me is very concerning, because you go to an event and over 4, maybe 3 out of 5 guys would have a firearm on them. And that's very concerning. The type of firearms that we are hearing
Yes.
in Dominica ranges from the usual, on a rare occasion, the revolver, but now you're seeing a lot of Glocks,
Wow.
a lot of
When you say the revolver, that's one of the circular barrel?
right, yeah. So revolver is what you see in the old cowboy days, a revolving cylinder.
Right.
So the barrel doesn't really rotate, although you have rotating barrels, but they're more for high-powered, fully automatic weapons. But for a revolver, the barrel is stationary, but the cylinder rotates.
Okay.
So these are rare. In the olden days, you would call it the midnight special.
Yes.
But because the shell casing would not be on the ground,
Right.
and that could be used for forensics, etc., etc. However, the guys are ruthless. What I'm seeing in Dominica is nothing new to any other Caribbean island that is going under development.
Right.
However, if that's the way we're going to develop, let us stay back in the 80s and 70s.
I agree.
Okay, the guys now are carrying their weapons bull face in bars, in events, on their bikes, in their cars, etc. So there needs to be a creative approach from the law enforcement community to curb that. I cannot tell you if I've seen anything recently. They also need to be more stringent. And we can talk about the laws, whether or not the law really penalizes these guys, and whether or not the magistrate or the judge who has the capability of imposing the maximum penalty of 15,000 or 15 years in jail is doing so.
Okay.
No, I stand corrected because I know that we'll have some lawyers like my good partner might call in. However, I always stand corrected. I don't know everything, and I'm always willing to learn.
True.
But in Dominica, we are very concerned about the level of violence with guns. No, you would see under 1% of that violence being perpetrated by a licensed firearms holder.
Wow.
So all the firearms related activities like the killings and so forth are illegal firearms.
Wow.
Oh, wow. So
So this topic today is really, really, really necessary.
let me ask this question, Kimo. How does one go about applying for a license? Is there particular criteria?
Yeah. There is. In 2002, my business started in 1997. In 2002, when I came back in 1997, 1996, and so forth, I realized that the way that the authorities were issuing licensed firearms was basically draconian. It was based on who are you, landowner, big name, etc., and so forth. And then I remember telling back then Mr. Lestrade that I think that the issuance of licenses to persons are more of a back then I thought it was more of a, what the word I want to use,
A bagay, Mr. So-and-so?
Like a society.
no, it was
Like
no,
a
it
society.
wasn't like that. It was more of a detriment to society,
Yes.
versus a benefit. And he asked why. I said because they're not formally trained. You have guys who and rule number 1, always keep your finger off the trigger.
Right.
And that's rule number 2. But rule number 1 is treat every firearm as if it is loaded. And you have persons coming in my class and kids. The first thing that they do, they put their finger on the trigger and they point the gun to you and they squeeze. Now, I have this class and you ask the question. I don't want to stray from the questions. How do you obtain? First, you got to be 18 years and above. And I think 18 years is a little young, but at 18 years you can vote and you can drive. So you are legally an adult.
Yes.
Would they give it to you at 18? I doubt. Two, you have to show some sort of land ownership. This is in the law.
Okay. Yes.
Land ownership, you have to have reasonable cause for owning a firearm.
Right.
You have to have a safe place to keep a firearm. And when they say the safe place, I'm always butting heads with some authorities because, yes, I am a modern firearms holder, but I'm also old school because if the firearms game becomes really nasty in Dominica, I lose.
True.
If it becomes clean and everyone is becoming
Yes.
a responsible firearm holder and they're doing sport shooting, etc., I benefit and everybody benefits. What's happening if once the increase in violence goes up, the commissioner automatically starts getting scared for good reason. And then he backs down and you see a drop in legal firearms holders. So for you to own a firearm, you must, and in 2002, I was doing it, I guess that's the word, by myself, and persons were getting trained, but it wasn't recognized by the government. It was approved, it was accepted, it was to their benefit.
But not recognized.
But in 2011, they passed the new Firearms Act and says in order for you to obtain a legal firearm, you have to do a firearms course by a reputable firm that is assigned by the government. So someone just can't come and say, I want to teach a firearm.
Okay.
So since 2002, I've been teaching thousands and thousands of people, from ministers to judges to doctors to lawyers to fishermen to farmers, anybody. I have no criteria. Say, well, you're bourgeois, and I don't. You know. Give me the average man on the road
Right.
that works hard. Give me everybody. I'm good.
Okay.
Yes.
When you do that course, my course is a one-week course, and it teaches you gun safety. Safety. You're not here to become a sniper. You're not here to become a Navy SEAL. Safety. Then we teach you something called advantages and disadvantages. We teach you about the fundamentals. We teach you about, I included something called childproofing.
Okay.
Childproofing is, I'm the only one that's doing childproofing. Everyone is, who's ever doing this, they're not concentrating on childproofing. And
What do you mean by that?
childproofing, okay, so I asked, and that's a very good question. So I asked my students, how many of your friends are children? And they're all adults and they don't raise their hand. And I said, you're not listening to me. How many of your friends are kids? And they said, do you understand that question? Meaning that how many of your adult friends are kids, are children? They will form the fool.
Yes.
And I said, no. I said, okay, let me give you a scenario. I said, we all playing dominoes at your home, we have a barbecue. You don't need to have your firearm on you because you're in a safe zone. But the guest washroom is taken up by another guy who drank too much beer, and you have a washroom in your room. But your firearm is not in a safe place; it is
On the dresser.
on the dresser. Your friend goes; he has no clue about gun handling. He jumps, picks up the pistol, one chambered, which we call one in the pipe.
Yes.
And he has bad gun handling techniques, and he puts his finger on the trigger, and he comes outside and he plays and he points a gun to you like everybody else, and he squeezes the trigger, and he says, I didn't know it was empty. That's negligence.
True.
So
How many of your
it's
friends are
kids.
children?
How many of friends are, and all of them say, wow. I said, second, let's put it this way. You have your friends over and your kids come and they run into your room and they see the gun. First thing they're going to do is a toy gun.
Yeah.
They are
Yes.
innocent and they will point the gun to another
Child.
and squeeze the trigger. That's a scenario you don't want. I don't want to have that.
I think it's when you're not educated, it's for want of a better term, human nature to pick up a gun, point it, and squeeze. Because that's what you see in the movies. And then the next day, and if the child is naive, they say, but he was in another movie, he didn't die.
Before we go more into gun safety, and to ask your question about the gun amnesty that the government has had, do you know much about that? How successful has it been in removing illegal firearms?
I haven't seen one in
illegal
years.
firearms in the market.
I haven't seen one. When I was a little boy,
community, sorry.
do we know?
A gun amnesty?
Yeah, do we know when last they had one?
I think there was one
A
about
few
10
years
years.
ago.
10 years
I
ago
was,
or less.
maybe 10 years or more. That was in the days of when they had Police Week. They would show
Yes.
all. Now we were going to school. That was long. That's more than 10 years ago.
Actually,
That was more than 10
when
years
we were
ago.
going to school, we were talking
Hurricane,
about, I want people to know my age.
Hurricane Maria was how many years ago? 5
5
years
years
ago.
ago.
Exactly. Time is running
So
out.
if we say when we were going to school, that's like 20 years ago.
Exactly. It was maybe over 15. I could.
Yeah.
I know Mr. Wicks or somebody else would call and give a date, but this is things that they have to do.
Right.
The gun amnesty was bringing in guns, but it was not bringing the right guns. It was bringing in the estate guns, the guns that
Yes.
were rusty. So I think that we need to revisit this thing and say, hey, the $15,000 that we're charging you guys and 15 years in jail, we're going to bump it up to 50,000.
Yeah.
And we're going to bump it up to maybe 25 years in jail, and give them something to. But when you are a guy who sells guns for a living, a gun is what, $6,000, $7,000 on the road, and imagine slaps you with a $12,000, $15,000 fine. That's a joke. You know, it's a joke. And so, even if it brings in 10% of the weapons on the street, I think it's a good initiative. I think we should revisit that.
Okay. We have some comments on the line.
And we're going to open up the lines in just a bit.
Okay, well, let's take
Well,
the
let's
call
open
and
up
then
the
we'll get
line.
back to the...
Yes, let's open up the lines. Hot topics, good afternoon, you're live. Talk to us.
Yes, today.
Good day.
Hello.
Oh, yes, I got a few minutes. I was about to ask him a question, but I think he answered it. Because I was saying that a number of persons apply for license to use firearms, but there's a prerequisite where the law states that they must go to a recognized school for training before doing that. And I'm asking him whether, he's been following, well, not he following the procedure, but whether persons have been coming to do the training, because that is one of the prerequisites. And the Firearms Act number 1531 also speaks about firearms use for sporting events or firearms use for a club. And I want to know if he really has a club or just the training institute where persons come and do the prerequisite. And the Firearms Act, of course, 1531, speaks of the procedure and so on for obtaining firearms. But it would appear in Dominica a lot of persons are violating the Firearms Act and are keeping firearms without license, which I think is one of the problems that has evolved in the country. So I believe some effort has to be stepped up, something has to be done to curb that sort of activity. And even if somebody has a licensed firearm and it is found that you're not using it for the appropriate reason that you have it, for instance, an employee, an employer, or so on, it can be revoked. Because Section 13 speaks clearly about the subject to Section 14, the appropriate authority may revoke your license if it's not being used. A person under 18 years, if you have a firearm, or a person who is not of good repute, or a person who is constantly in trouble. So, I want him to speak to those things. But, of course, we have a very stringent Firearms Act in Dominica. It's just that in recent times we see seemingly persons are trying to pattern what is going on in the international circuit and bring it down on this country. But of course, as you move into your development, things will happen. But things like firearms, that's a no-no. So I think some sort of situation have to be put in place to be more stringent, even the penalties.
Mr. Irish, while you're with us on the line, could you give us a little bit of information on the gun amnesty? When was the last time we had one, and how successful was it?
I do not want to give the wrong date, but I think about 2011 thereabout. There was one in 2005, and I think in 2011 there was a gun amnesty, and quite a few came in, but one would have thought persons would come in and surrender. I thought maybe there were one or two more out there that did not come in. And I think your guest alluded to that fact. That guys are being bold now. The other day I saw a guy just pull out something because he was overtaken on a motorcycle, and here the driver said, "Boy, you want to break my mirror?" And he just drew his thing and he had it there, and so on and so on. And then the time I glanced, no numbers on the motorcycle. You cannot even say to the police or anything, well, this was,
Yes.
and so on. So I think something has to be done. So yes, there were two amnesty between 2005 and 2015.
Okay.
And a couple came in, but I think maybe they need to go back on that. And if you give a gun amnesty and persons do not come in and surrender their firearm and they get involved in a gun-related incident, I think the court should hold a dim view of that and they should get maximum penalty, no matter whoever it is.
Agreed.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you
All
so
right,
much for
thank
your
you very
contribution,
much, sir.
Mr. Irish. Kimo, here's a question.
Mhm.
In terms of the requirements for purchase of ammunition, I in the little bit that I know, I think people can just go to any shop and purchase, right? Well, any licensed shop to
Yeah.
purchase. Now, do the people purchasing have to report how they used their last set of ammunition
No.
before they can purchase?
No, it's not a requirement right now, and I think it will be unfair. If you are trusted with a firearm, you should be trusted with the dispensation or dispensing of your ammunition. However, they limit you to 50 rounds.
Okay.
Now I could be wrong, and Mr. Irish and Farrell could help me out and find out whether or not that's in the law. The thing I'm having a difficulty is that if it's not in the law, then and it's a policy, then it should be changed. So if you are a license holder, you can go in to a dealer with a updated license and purchase your wrongs. Now, what in our store, we expect persons to submit their ID each time they purchase.
Right.
They say, but I have a license. No, I know you had a license yesterday,
Yes.
but I do not know today.
If it's
Because, like Mr. Ari said, your license can be revoked by the proper authority. So the commissioner of police can revoke your license based on non-payment of fees. So in other words, on April 1st,
Right.
if the police go and knock on your door, it's not April Fool. It's fine, not whether or not you have paid your license
So
for your firearm.
what is the fees like?
200
A year?
a year.
Oh,
And irrespective of when you get your. So in other words, a little bit draconian, and we are dealing with that, and we hope we can have some consultation.
Yes.
That if you purchase your firearm in January, my girl, $200. If you purchase your firearm in February, my girl, $200.
Okay.
Now, they are a bit lenient and say if you purchase your firearm in the 1st of March, then instead of paying for 12 months, they give you 13 months. Because yes,
yeah.
but I think now and then it
Yes.
should be. We should have the system in place to prorate
Right.
Yes.
the
Right,
fees or
of
say, well,
course.
play half. But somebody purchased in November, $20, So you don't. So you're paying for a full year, irrespective of if you have a full year.
Yeah.
So you must submit your license, your card,
Yes.
to my shop in order for you to get a box of ammunition. No, we do not keep the ammo. Although the law gives us the right to do so, the police has full custody over all weapons. So again, for the person that think that the world has firearms ammunition, we do not. We do not. All the ammo and the firearms are kept in the police armory.
Okay.
All right.
So you now go to. So the process is a little bit stressful. So you go by my store, you buy, then you go by the police, and you
And
get
you
your
pick up.
box
Okay.
and you go.
So if you go into frequently, the police will have.
No, well, the thing is that the police need to have the intelligence out there and know that first and foremost, somebody who is of bad mind and character and is of intimate habits should not should not have a firearm.
So do you have to give account for those
No.
who dispel?
No, you don't.
But don't you think
You don't.
think that with the way that, okay, I'm not saying that licensed firearm holders will issue ammunition to non-licensed firearm holders. However, there's a thin line between. So you never know. My cousin might want to out that person. I use in Dominican lingo now, and to out that person. So I check Kimo because Kimo have.
Let's use another name now.
So killer. I check.
But I totally understand. I
I check
agree.
John Brown because John Brown is my cousin. He has
Yeah.
a legal thing,
Yeah.
and I go to him.
or you
and
want
I
to
go and-
practice. So let's say you want to practice.
Or even
Yes.
that's with that scenario, because they're so responsible maybe that would not happen.
Right.
But a more likely scenario is that a licensed firearm holder uses their card or
Right.
to buy
To
firearms,
purchase
to buy
Ammunition.
ammunition, sorry, for a third party.
It is possible.
It is.
And,
It seems very
it
likely.
is possible.
Seems that you
and,
don't have to give account.
And we cannot choose who our family is.
Exactly.
So sometimes our family member has an illegal firearm and we will not turn him in, but he wants to practice and we'll give him some ammunition. However, it should not be that case.
Right.
True.
So for you to own a firearm, you must be proficient in the use of firearms. And you cannot be proficient in the use of firearms if you only shoot once a year.
Oh, so you have to be.
That's right.
As we on the range there,
Right,
a person
there we
is
go.
asking a question, and I don't know if they she said they took training, and she wants to know question to you. She said, how can one who took the training with you obtain his or her license? Application was submitted over a year ago.
No,
So
okay.
what's the timeline?
So there's no timeline, although we're trying our best to have some consultation with the law enforcement, let's say CID. I think that there need to be some sort of revision into how they process. Applications should not take more than a certain time period, but there's no time period stated in the law. So basically, firearms in Dominica is not, and guys, what people are misunderstanding is that we're in Dominica. We're not in the US of A, where we think that firearms is our Second Amendment right. We don't have the right to bear arms. Listen, only thing we have a right to bear is 4 stones, my girl.
I know, right?
Cool wash.
And cool wash.
Cool wash and
But
cool
But the
wash.
idea of we saying, it's our right. We don't have a
That's
right to
not-
bear
That
arms.
is not a part of our
And
Constitution.
so it's basically a luxury. It's a luxury
And a
owning a firearm,
privilege.
and a privilege. So, the person, whoever he or she is, I would ask them to follow up and resubmit.
Okay.
Resubmit. And
is
I have had this constant complaint that the authorities are taking a little too long in terms of processing.
So
but they
what's-
are getting flooded
Okay.
with requests also.
Typically, what is the time frame for a normal request? Maybe something is wrong with her own, but for a normal request, what is the typical time frame?
If the country is running nice and smooth and there's no riots and anybody being yourself, I'd say it's 3 months.
Oh wow.
I say 3 months. But the commissioner of police is not going to sit on his desk just signing applications for
Okay.
firearms. He has
Alright.
more important things to do. And police say, well, I purchased, but it's not your right. So there's a way around it, and we can, with the authorities, discuss a way around it and put something more stringent and more concrete and say, this is what you have to submit. This is the criteria you must pass, and you should get a response back in X more time. But I want you to pay $150 for your application fee. When you pay that $150 for application fee, now you put the onus on the government. The government is now collecting revenue, and they're saying, hey, I have an onus to the public
Yeah.
to respond to them in a set time. Because now I am generating revenue to have a firearms officer. And that firearms officer is not CID, is not there, is not general duties. They are basically managing a firearm task force.
Okay. Wow.
Because that's the reason. If you don't have a firearm task force, it's going to get chaotic.
So there's another question. I don't know.
I think you'll need more time here.
Yes, we do. You see, they move us to the right time. We get in there, you know. We are little by little, but making it nice.
True that.
Somebody wants. I think I know the answer to that, but she said she doesn't understand what does owning property, the land, have to do with obtaining a license.
That's a very good question. I figure because it has to show that you're responsible. One, that you are
Vested.
investing in the community, investing in a business, and then you have an actual. What if you don't have a property? What are you protecting?
True.
Right. So you have a business, or you have a farm, or
You have to have property.
Now,
Property
somebody's
itself.
asking, what about psychology, a psychiatric evaluation before purchasing a
They
firearm?
should that goes into the background. So when you apply for a license, it's not my job. My job is to basically teach you
Yes,
the
how
safe
to use
handling and you have no nervous habits.
Right.
But the CID and the special branch, they're responsible for doing an in-depth background check on you, and not only a criminal record, but there is something called oh my God, I forgot my.
Akin to a psychiatric evaluation?
No, they would look into that,
Okay.
but you know that a character record.
Yeah.
Yes.
So I cannot have a criminal
Character
record,
evaluation.
but every time I pull up really, I misbehaving.
So,
I may not get arrested,
Right.
but I'm misbehaving. That's somebody you do not want to give a fine.
Right.
and you know when you ask Dominicans to give a character reference, Papa, but it's deadlier than if it was a psych evaluation. But we have a really interesting question there from Claude Weeks, and he's saying, I would like you all to address the issue of gun violence. So while it's good chatting about licenses,
Right.
the main issue is unlicensed firearms and violence. What do we do? What are the strategies to be adopted to minimize the impact of gun violence?
Yes, that's our main
That
topic.
is where we want to talk.
That's where we want.
Yes.
So gun violence. So like I said in the beginning, we find that the guys are getting a little more brutal. I mean, anytime somebody can walk up to you and pop you in the pumpkin, according to them, a local talk, it means that these guys are fearless. You walk up in the middle of everyone, public, and you pump somebody enough times that he dies.
Oh, he's seriously.
And you don't care. So let me take the lead because I'm fearless
Yes.
and I don't care. The thing is that we've seen persons killing each other in Dominica. We don't know the reasons. We cannot say if it's drug related, if it's family related, if it's lover related. We don't know.
don't know.
However, the boldness of persons doing that in Dominica is concerning. Now, the video surfaced after the killing on the Bayfront. There was what you call this vigil, and persons are discharging a weapon and multiple weapons in public. They can come after me, you know, but they'll be good. No, they're discharging multiple weapons in public. No, when we discharge a weapon in public, let's talk about common sense.
Yes.
Yeah.
You discharge a weapon in public, it goes up in the air, unharmed, untouched. Who catches that bullet? God?
True. It
Maybe
comes down
Thor.
somewhere.
A net.
Maybe Thor will hit it.
A
with his
net.
hammer.
So that bullet goes up in the air,
Yeah.
and we have no idea of the trajectory.
Right.
It goes left, it goes right, and it comes back down faster
Then it goes
than
up.
when it went up. And you're walking and you're having a little ice cream with your daughter on the bayfront. And that round goes from the sky directly in her skull. You do not know where that bullet came from because what you heard was a gunshot
Way
half a mile
down.
lower.
Yeah.
Now, what happens? My problem is that I don't want to get into too much debate with the authorities. They know what they have to do. And I know that they know when there's a public event happening, do what you got to do, bro.
Exactly.
Just do what you got to do.
Do the searches.
And we know that they're out there. I am a civilian, I know. You know, you have your intelligence. I'm saying that let us get more proactive. Let's put a task force. And the task force we need a gang-related task force. It's gangs.
Yes.
They're not individuals. So anywhere in a modern country, you have gang task force, a gang group. But properly trained. Stop rotating the guys. Get properly trained guys and leave them there. You send them in the jungle. You send them to do training. They cannot be in traffic.
Exactly.
You cannot.
Because you have to nurture their intelligence and
But
hone their skills.
you're sending these guys to get properly trained, not to kill people, but to prevent and protect the country, the homeland. And then something happens and we send them in traffic. Okay, that's fine, but put the task force in place to deal with these things and don't be afraid. The problem is Dominica is too small and everybody has a family member that is misbehaving.
Yeah.
Everybody knows somebody that is a problem.
Oh yeah.
So we don't want to take measures that will upset anybody because it could be our family. And that's the typical way we just put
do
things on the side
But
because
folks,
we could be related to that person.
Let's take a quick pause, all right? We're in the hurricane season, so ensure that you have hand tools, hammers, screwdrivers to use right away, a shovel, a pickaxe for after the storm, maybe a power screwdriver, sockets, plastic sheeting to cover your furniture, rope, especially your sturdy work gloves and rubber boots. You need duct tape. The duct tape is not just for makeup. All right, to protect your waterproof items or to waterproof your items, okay, and canvas tops and sturdy nails, All right? And this hurricane tip was brought to you the kind compliments of Argos. Building? Think Argos Cement. Argos specializes in technical expertise and innovative solutions. Let us turn your vision into a beautiful reality. Our cement products have the strength and durability that you need. So, be it cement in small bag, bulk, or jumbo, we've got you. Visit us at Rockaway Canefield or call 449-2637 for orders and info. Argos Cement.
Kids, it's back to school time with KFC. What will help you win a pass?
Spend and win!
And a bursary.
Spend and win!
And a scholarship.
Spend and win!
Spend $30 or more for one of 3 opportunities to win towards back to school supplies and expenses. Win a pass of $500 or a bursary of $750 or a scholarship of $1,500.
Spend and win!
Promotion runs from now to KFC's 16th anniversary on August 13th.
Spend and win!
Dominica and the Creole world get ready for the greatest manifestation of Creole expressions. July 2022, Cadence Lipso Month. Creole Handbit presents the 2nd edition of Cadence Lipso Month. Look out for fringe events, planning discussions, masterclasses, documentaries, interviews, workshops, memorabilia. The first ever Cadence Lipso tent and more, culminating with the Cadence Lipso Tribute Festival at the Windsor Park Sports Stadium, Fort Rosa. Friday, July 29th, tribute to the kings of Cadence Lipso music, Midnight Groovers. Saturday, July 30, tribute to the late creator Jeff Joe. And on Sunday, July 31, tribute to the maestro Fitzroy Williams. Cadence Lipso Month for July 2022. This summer promises to be one you will never forget. Cadence Lipso Month for July 2022. A celebration of a fusion of rhythmical patterns. Sakai Malade!
La famille de orchestre la mort, but nous still les côtes nous bacamo à poison.
Secure your valuables and important documents, including medical documents, passports, and personal identification. Wrap in waterproof bags or containers to keep them safe in the event of leaks or flooding during a passage of a storm. A message from Best Price, where you save a lot on hurricane season essentials.
Folks, and we're back live. 8 minutes left on Hot Topics with you. Very interesting discussion, very pertinent discussion. And our guest in studio, Kimo Astefan. Folks, don't forget, tell your friends to tell your friends to tell your friends. Hot Topics is on from 12 to 1. Okay, so, Kimo, somebody mentioned earlier on the live in the conversation, and we have a call. We're going to take that call. Just hang on for us, caller. Somebody mentioned about checking people, like doing physical checks when people are coming into those events. But we'll get to this. Let's just take this call. Hot Topics, talk to us. You're live.
Hey, good afternoon, Hot Topic girls.
Yes,
Good
Mr.
afternoon,
Six.
Yeah, good afternoon, Mr. Astefan.
Good afternoon.
Well, boy, you maybe just know you have to apply for the top position there in the law enforcement. We have a different side of the story. But what I'm saying is that when you collect the statistics of people who have weapons, people who shooting, people that you know who are the guys that breaking and open your data. You have a data collection in the police force. Mm-hmm. You have that on your computer. The first people you have to target is the people that are repeated offenders. These people that target. And once you can break the neck of the leader, the ringleader, you're breaking up the gangs. You have to go for the headhunter, the guy who pulling the shot, the guy who know how to get the gun and distribute it or get the drug and distribute. This is the people that you target. And I don't know what is going on if the police don't know. Well, they have data, they have no offending, they who's stealing. My brother, once you have that, you pull that shit out, you go on the computer, plap, 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 plap. You watch those guys, and there's a pattern. Those who offend, they'll always offend again. So you have to watch those guys. I want you to break that ring a rosy pocket full of rice. Dominic will be a peaceful place.
Thank you.
It's just that we're not doing what we have to do. And when things get hot, we say we told this.
Yeah.
You have to take things before it happens. I always saying that. And Timo, you're doing a fantastic job. I thinking I coming by you to get a license gun because I think things are getting hot.
Well,
Thank you, Six, for your contribution.
on that note, right? On that note, we're saying illegal guns. But when you have, there's no way putting the police, throwing them under the bus. I know that they're being swamped with licenses. But when you have persons who are law-abiding citizens requesting a firearm, and it takes, and they're living in remote areas, and they have families, and they're not getting, like your friend, not getting the firearm, it forces them now to get illegal firearms. So what we're saying is that look at it in a different way.
Because at the
and
end
say,
of the
hey,
day-
you're law abiding, you're past all the qualifications. I have your fingerprints. They're not even taking our fingerprints. They should. We have this, we have that. I can help them. It's not that I want anybody's position. I don't want it. I want them. I want to assist. Put a database together and let us bring in the guns every 2 years. How do you know persons who have firearms who lose their firearms? They're not even saying my firearms was lost. They're just not reporting it.
Wow.
And that firearm now is in the hands of the public because of fear that the police will hit them or will say that you lose your firearm and you're negligent. So they're not even saying this.
Yeah.
Now, if you are a license holder and you have to bring in your firearms to get inspected every 2 to 3 years, we know.
If you have it still.
Right.
Then purge that list. Anybody who has
because-
not purge the list. Anybody who has not paid their license in 2 or 3 months, we're coming for your firearm.
Exactly. Now, what happens if a person dies, and they're a holder? So they die. They have the firearm in their home. It hasn't expired as yet. A family member, can they now assume the license?
Okay, that's a good question. Okay, so the license for a firearm is for the holder only. It cannot be transferred like you have a license to drive a car.
Yeah.
You can drive her car, you can drive anybody's car. It doesn't happen with a firearm. If you touch my firearm and the police sees you with my firearm, you can be charged for handling a unlicensed firearm. Even it's licensed, but I mean you're not registered to it. However, on the range they may have a little leniency, but you cannot say, hey, take my gun and go and clean it. You're not a gunsmith. You're not a dealer. So the law doesn't protect you. So in the case of a death, the family member should contact the CID department immediately. And if they're not trained, they should let the CID come and pick up the firearm. What we don't want is persons not being formally trained in safety, handling the firearm and bringing it in and walking through the police department with a big 12 gauge.
Right.
I mean, that's ridiculous.
Now
So
let's go back
we
to
have a couple comments there from Inspector Cloudwicks, and he's saying, well, he's suggesting punishment, education, public awareness, and community-based discussions to help curb gun violence and the illegal use of guns. Any comments on that?
I agree. Claude and myself, we think the same way. We're old school. According to him, my brother, we fight a lot of war already, you know. Back in the 80s and the 90s, Claude and myself, but I agree. So I want to start doing child proofing and gun safety in schools. I think it's good because it's not for me, it's not for us to leave it taboo for the kids. They need to know that guns do and can and will kill.
right.
And if their parents own a gun, so the parents now are keeping it a secret and say I don't want the guns. But you tell your kids, you know.
Yes.
Punishment, I think we should look at the penalties. I said this early on. In terms of education and so forth, we need to continue educating, encourage sporting activities for firearms. I mean, you look at the area. I mean, we don't have much sporting activities.
We don't.
So
And it's
Only on-
an
only on
Olympic
range.
sport, you know.
Yes,
I mean,
it
just
is.
the other day, Trinidad contacted me if we have a team to send to the Olympics for shooting, and I'm like, nah, we're not ready, and we won't be ready for the next 5 years.
Yeah.
So what you're essentially saying that if people are more comfortable with guns and how to use them and respect them, we'll have less incidences.
Yes.
Yes.
I think so. And then constant classes. Not just do your class, get your gun, and never go back. You need to have refreshers.
Anyways.
We finished?
Yes.
We finish.
Time is-
There'll be a part 2. But we
Yes.
need to have refreshers. I totally agree with that.
Yes.
It's just like with a driver's license.
Yes.
You need to go back every few years and just
In
that all
which
over
country? The country
I'm saying we
I'm-
should have
But
it.
let me tell you, you touch on some really, really important points that we need to explore. So we will have you back.
But on that note, if you calling me to have a program, you need at least 3 hours from me. Yeah? Plenty information.
Hey, Papa.
Frankie, you hear that?
He's listening, Dory. Keep again.
There's nothing we can say.
Folks, it's 1 p.m. We gotta go. That's it for us. With you, much love. Until tomorrow, again at 12 p.m. Bye-bye.
Did you love this show? Then call us at 614-3385 to find out ways that you can support